Lieutenant Jake Wren opened his eyes to cold metal and strange shadows. His head ached. The last thing he remembered was his ship exploding in the silence of space. Now he lay on a smooth black floor, inside a strange cell. The walls glowed with a soft blue light and the air smelled of iron and smoke. He tried to sit up but groaned. His body hurt. Bruised ribs, maybe a broken arm. He looked around slowly. There were no windows, only one door. And it opened. Standing in the doorway was a tall figure in dark armor. Her skin was silver gray, her eyes like polished stone. She was not human. She was Korthari. The Korthari were known across the galaxy as ruthless warriors, strong, cold, dangerous. Their empire had crushed dozens of species. Humanity had only just entered space and already they were at war. The woman stepped closer. Her face showed no emotion. Her voice was smooth but sharp like a blade. "You are Lieutenant Jake Wren of the Earthship Resolute?" Jake nodded slowly. "That's me," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. She looked at a device on her wrist. "You survived a direct hit from our plasma cannon. Impressive. Most would have died." Jake gave a small shrug. "Guess I'm lucky." The woman tilted her head. "Luck is a weak word. Humans rely on it too much. It makes you reckless." Jake didn't answer. He studied her carefully. She moved like a soldier, strong, confident, always ready. But her voice had a slight pause when she said, "reckless," as if the word carried more meaning than she let on. "I am Commander Vela," she said. "I will ask questions. You will answer. If you lie, we will know. If you resist, you will suffer." Jake leaned back slightly. "All right, ask." She walked around him in a slow circle. "Why did your people attack the mining colony at Delta 3? Jake frowned. "We didn't attack. We were defending a neutral zone. Your ships fired first." Vela stopped behind him. "Our records say otherwise." Jake looked up at her. "Then your records are wrong." There was silence. Vela didn't respond right away. She stepped in front of him again, then pulled something from her belt, a thin, glowing blade. She held it up near his face. The air around it shimmered with heat. Jake's heart beat faster, but he didn't look away. "I could end you now," she said calmly. "No one would question it." Jake looked at the blade, then at her. And then, for some reason, even he didn't fully understand. He smiled. It wasn't a big smile, just a small, tired grin. Not mocking, not afraid, just human. Vela froze. Her hand stopped moving. The blade wavered slightly. Jake saw her eyes narrow, not in anger, but in something else. Confusion? Curiosity? "You smile?" she said, voice quiet. Jake shrugged again. "Yeah. Why not? You are injured, captured, at my mercy, and you smile." Jake gave a soft chuckle. "It's kind of what we do." For a long moment, Vela stared at him. The blade remained in the air, glowing softly. Then slowly she turned it off and placed it back on her belt. She stepped away, her face unreadable. "You are strange," she said. Jake smiled again, this time with a bit more warmth. "You're not the first to say that." Without another word, Vela turned and walked out. The door closed behind her with a hiss. Jake leaned back against the wall, breathing deeply. He didn't know why he smiled. Maybe to stay calm, maybe to buy time. But something in Vela's eyes had changed in that moment. A flicker of thought, a hesitation, and in war, even a small hesitation could be everything. Commander Vela sat in her private chamber, silent and still. The soft hum of the ship filled the room, along with the flicker of blue light from a screen on the wall. Reports scrolled by, status updates, engine readings, security patrols, all normal, all routine. But her thoughts were not on the reports. Her thoughts were on the human. Jake Wren, lieutenant, Earth soldier, prisoner, and his smile. Korthari didn't smile. It was not in their nature. Their people were trained from birth to be disciplined, logical, and firm. Emotion was weakness, laughter was distraction, smiling, pointless. So why had that small, tired smile stayed in her mind? He had smiled while sitting injured on the cold floor. He had smiled when she held a blade to his face. He had smiled when he had every reason to be afraid. It didn't make sense. She stood up sharply and walked to the door. Jake was lying on the narrow bench inside his cell when the door opened again. He sat up quickly, expecting guards or maybe a new interrogation, but it was her again. Vela stepped inside holding a small data tablet. He raised an eyebrow. Back so soon? Vela didn't answer right away. She sat on a bench across from him, eyes steady. "I do not understand you," she said. Jake leaned back. "You're not the first to say that either." She ignored the joke. "Your people fight when they should surrender. You smile when you are losing. You speak as if fear does not exist." Jake tilted his head. "That's not true. We're scared. We just don't let it stop us." "Why?" Jake thought for a moment. "Because if we give up every time things get hard, we'll never survive. That's just not how humans are." Vela narrowed her eyes. "Your species is young, weak. You only recently left your planet, yet your soldiers fight like they have nothing to lose." Jake nodded. "We fight because we have everything to lose." There was a long silence between them. Vela looked at the tablet in her hands. "I reviewed your mission records. Your ship was not designed for combat against ours. Still, you fought, even when escape was impossible." Jake gave a small smile. "We always hope we'll find a way." "That is not logical." "No," Jake said, "but it's human." For the first time, Vela looked uncertain. She was trained to follow orders, to believe in the Korthari way. But something in this human was different. His words were strange but not foolish. His smile, odd as it was, felt real. Not a trick, not a weapon, just human. She stood. "Your behavior is dangerous. It creates questions. Questions I should not have." Jake looked at her closely. "Then why are you here?" She paused. "I don't know," she said honestly. Jake watched her walk to the door again. "Hey," he called before it closed. She turned slightly. "I know you're my enemy. I'm not asking for trust. But if you ever want to understand humans, better come back. No blade, no threats, just questions." The door slid shut. Later that night, Vela stood at the large viewing window at the edge of the ship's command center. The stars looked peaceful outside, quiet and endless. She remembered her training. Korthari were not meant to question. They followed. They conquered. They obeyed. But now she wondered, could understanding be more powerful than control? Was there strength in what the humans called hope? In his cell, Jake leaned back, thinking about Vela. She hadn't hurt him. She hadn't tried to force answers. She had listened. That alone was strange. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew something had changed, and sometimes a small change was the start of something big. Jake Wren sat quietly in the corner of his cell, eyes half closed but mind wide awake. The room was still, but his thoughts were not. He had been on this alien warship for 3 days now. No torture, no chains. Just questions, silence, and the strange visits from Commander Vela. She was different from what he expected. Sharp, yes, but not cruel. Cold, but curious. She didn't treat him like a prisoner, not anymore. And Jake had noticed something else. Every time Vela came, she left just one thing behind, a small clue. The first was a look, a pause when he spoke about Earth. The second, a tablet, left near him for a moment too long, showing a system map of the ship. He hadn't touched it, but he memorized what he saw. And today, when she entered again, she stood closer to the power panel in the wall. She wanted him to see something, but she couldn't say it directly. Maybe she was being watched too, when she sat across from him. Jake gave her a small nod. "Nice to see you again, Commander." "I have 5 minutes," Vela said. checking the time on her device. That is all. Jake smiled. More than I usually get with strangers. She didn't respond to the joke, but her eyes flicked toward the corner where a security lens blinked softly. Jake understood. This wasn't just a talk, it was a test. You ever seen an Earth sunrise? He asked casually, leaning back. No. Pity. It's worth waking up early for. Vela tilted her head. The human world is filled with noise and pollution. Is that beauty to you? Jake grinned. Maybe. We find beauty in small things, even when everything's a mess. He saw her glance again at the blinking lens, then back to him. That was the signal. Jake changed the subject. So, tell me, how does a Korthari warship like this breathe? Air must cycle through a main system, right? Where's that? Vela raised one eyebrow. Why do you ask? Just curious, Jake said with a shrug. Always wanted to be an engineer. She paused, then answered slowly. The primary ventilation core is behind Section 12 near the power bay. Jake didn't smile this time. He kept his face calm. She wanted him to know where the heart of the ship was, the place he might need, if he wanted to escape. Later, when Vela left, Jake stood and moved around his cell slowly, pretending to stretch. He counted the steps from the door to the wall. He watched the light change as the ship moved. He marked the time between patrols, passing outside. Every detail mattered. He didn't know when, but he knew it now for certain. She was helping him. But why? In her private room, Vela sat in front of her personal console. A message blinked on the screen. Monitor prisoner interactions. No personal contact allowed. Your actions are being reviewed. She closed the message without replying. She should feel fear. But she didn't. What she felt was something different, a slow pull toward something unfamiliar. Jake Wren was not a threat in the usual way. He didn't fight with weapons or anger. He fought with hope, with questions, with laughter. And somehow, it was working. He made her think. And Korthari soldiers were not supposed to think, just follow. But now she was thinking too much. That night, Jake lay on his back, staring at the ceiling of his cell. The lights were dim. The ship was quiet. He thought about his team. His ship. The explosion that separated him from everyone. Maybe they were dead. Maybe they were still out there looking for him. He couldn't wait forever. Vela had opened a small door. He had to decide whether to step through it, but escape wasn't just about running. It was about surviving, outsmarting, and maybe trusting the enemy. Jake smiled in the dark. The strange kind of war he was fighting now wasn't in the stars or with ships. It was with ideas. And maybe, just maybe, he was starting to win. Every moment in the alien cell had become a quiet lesson. He watched the guards, counted the seconds between the power surges in the wall, measured the rhythm of the lights flickering in the hall outside. He was a soldier, yes, but now he was also a student of the Korthari warship, and he had a secret teacher. Commander Vela came less often now, not because she didn't want to, but because someone had noticed. The guards watched her closely. She spoke with fewer words. Her visits were shorter, but Jake still saw the signs. She found new ways to speak without speaking. Sometimes it was the way she placed her boot, right beside a floor panel that hummed louder than the others. Sometimes it was the way she paused near the ventilation map she'd accidentally left open on her tablet screen. Each time it was a clue, and Jake understood. Today she came in without her usual armor. No weapons, just her gray uniform and a quiet face. Jake sat up quickly. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't have long," she said, voice low. She looked different, tense, not nervous but alert. Jake leaned forward. "Something's wrong." She gave a slight nod. "Your escape. It must happen soon." Jake blinked. He had expected hints, but not this. "They're moving me?" Vela shook her head. "No, but someone has noticed I am too curious." Jake smiled gently. You're more than curious. Her voice stayed calm. I am still a soldier, but one with questions, Jake said softly. And that matters. She looked at him for a long second. Then she pulled a small device from her sleeve and slid it across the floor. Jake caught it quietly. It will unlock the vent panel behind your cell, she said. There is a passage. Follow the red marks. They will lead to Section 12. Jake nodded. The ventilation core? Yes, Vela replied. There is a service tunnel near the air control unit. It's old, off-grid. Our systems won't detect you right away. Jake took a breath. You're risking everything. Vela stood straight. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes, softer now. Sometimes, she said, we must break rules to see the truth. Then she turned toward the door. Before she left, Jake called out, Why are you helping me? She stopped. For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she said quietly, without turning around, Because you smiled, and she was gone. Hours later, when the ship lights dimmed for rest cycle, Jake waited. He listened for footsteps. Nothing. He counted to 60, then again and again. Quiet. Still. Then, he moved. He knelt near the back wall and pressed the small device to the panel Vela had shown him. A soft click. The cover loosened. Jake slipped inside. The vent was narrow and dark. Hot air pushed through, and metal scraped against his elbows as he crawled. But he kept moving. Red marks were scratched faintly on the wall, just like she said. He followed them, left, right, down a slope, through a spinning fan that had just enough space for a human body. Jake's heart pounded, not just from fear, but from something stronger. Hope. Meanwhile, in the control room, a figure in black armor watched a screen closely. The prisoner's cell was dark, still, silent. The figure narrowed their eyes. They didn't trust Vela. She was changing, too soft, too slow to act. And the human? Too calm, too clever. Suspicion turned into action. Alarms would come soon. Jake reached the service tunnel. The red marks stopped here. Ahead, he saw a large control panel with old wiring and thick pipes. This was it. Section 12. The heart of the ship's air system. He pulled out the tool Vela gave him and worked quickly. He didn't need to destroy the ship, just cause enough trouble to force an evacuation or draw attention away from the escape pods. Something big enough to shake the command center, but not hurt the crew. He was almost done when he heard it. Footsteps. Fast. Coming. Closer. He froze, then a voice whispered, It's me. Vela. She stepped into the shadows beside him. Her eyes were hard now. They know. Jake nodded. Then let's finish this. Together they activated the overload. Lights flickered. A low hum filled the air. You have 5 minutes, she said. Go to the emergency chute, I'll clear the way. Jake looked at her. Come with me. She didn't answer. I mean it, he said. You don't belong here anymore. She looked at him and for the first time she smiled. Just a little. And it meant everything. Red lights flashed through the Korthari warship like a heartbeat in panic. Sirens echoed through every corridor. Doors locked and unlocked in rapid patterns. The crew rushed to their stations. Shouts filled the air in the alien language. In the middle of the storm, Jake ran. His boots pounded the metal floor as he followed Vela through a narrow maintenance tunnel. Steam hissed from broken pipes around them. The system was overloading fast, just like they had planned. Vela moved quickly, her steps silent and sure. She didn't look back, but she knew he was there. She could feel it. The human who had changed. Everything. They reached a corner where the tunnel split. She stopped. That way, she said, pointing left. The emergency chute is 60 meters down. Jake looked at her. You said you'd clear the way. She nodded. I will, but I'm going the other direction. Jake frowned. Why? To buy time, she answered. They'll come after you. I'll lead them away. Jake stepped forward. Vela, you don't have to do this. I do, she said, voice calm but firm. This is my ship, my people. If I vanish now, they'll know I betrayed them. But if I stay, I can protect you. One last time. He hesitated. You could come with me. You have a choice. She looked at him quietly. You gave me that choice, but now I must use it to do what's right. Jake's jaw tightened. He wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. I'll find a way back, he promised. One day. Vela gave the smallest smile. Then I will be waiting. She turned and vanished into the shadows. Jake took a deep breath and ran down the left tunnel. Vela reached the control junction and tapped quickly into the ship's security system. She rerouted patrols, locked doors, released false signals. She saw Jake on the small screen, running fast toward the emergency launch pod. Guards were chasing him, but slowly now, lost in the maze she created. The plan was working, but she knew it couldn't last long. Jake reached the final hatch and pulled the lever. The door slid open with a heavy hiss, revealing a small escape pod. It was old and dusty, probably unused in years. He jumped inside, strapped himself in, and hit the launch button. For a second, nothing happened. Then the pod shook. Loud clanks echoed through the shell as magnetic locks released. With a burst of force, the pod shot out into space. Stars rushed past the window. Jake was free, but his heart wasn't. Not yet. Back on the warship, alarms shifted to a new tone. The system now recognized what had happened. Unauthorized launch detected. Sector 12 compromised. Commander Vela, location unknown. The captain stormed into the control room, face like stone. Find her, now. But it was too late. Vela was already gone, into the ship's lower decks, deeper than any camera could reach. She had made her choice. The escape pod drifted quietly through space. Jake Wren sat in the pilot's seat, breathing slow and steady. The stars outside were endless, cold, and silent. For a moment, he felt completely alone. Just a human in a metal box floating through the galaxy. The Korthari warship was far behind him now, shrinking into the darkness. But his thoughts weren't on the ship. They were on her, Commander Vela. She had stayed behind to save him, risked everything, lied to her people, changed her heart, and he had left her there. Jake clenched his fists. I will come back, he whispered to himself. I promised. He opened the pod's small communication screen and began working. The system was old, half broken, but still alive. He had to find help, someone to receive his signal and rescue him before his oxygen ran out. He tapped into the emergency channel and sent out a message. This is Ensign Jake Wren of Earth vessel Horizon Star. Escaped Korthari captivity. Location, Sector 4G Delta. Requesting immediate pickup. He paused, then added softly, and I need a way back. Hours passed. Jake floated, watching the screen. The message repeated every 5 minutes. The pod shook gently like a leaf on water. He checked the oxygen meter. 60% remaining. Come on, he muttered. He couldn't let Vela's sacrifice be for nothing. Far away, deep in the void between stars, a small Earth Alliance scout ship picked up the signal. Lieutenant Maya Chen, communications officer, stared at her screen. Commander, I'm picking up a distress call. The captain stepped over. Source? Human, she replied. Repeat signal. Sector 4G Delta. Very weak. The captain frowned. That's near Korthari territory. Closer than we should be, Maya said. But he's one of ours. The captain nodded. Set course. Let's bring him home. Back in the pod, Jake had started to drift into sleep. His mind was foggy. The air was getting thinner. Then, a beep. He opened his eyes fast. A new signal flashed on the screen. Rescue inbound. Hold position. Jake smiled. Took you long enough. He leaned back and looked out the window. The stars were still endless, still cold. But now, they didn't feel so empty. 2 hours later, the scout ship docked with the pod and pulled Jake aboard. Medics checked him over, gave him oxygen and water. "Where's your ship?" one of them asked. Jake sat up slowly. "Gone. Destroyed. But that's not the real story." The captain stepped in. "We'll debrief you later. Right now you're safe." Jake looked her in the eye. "I need to speak with command. Immediately." The captain raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because there's someone still on that warship," Jake said. "And we need to get her out." The room went quiet. The captain folded her arms. "You're talking about a Korthari?" Jake nodded. "Commander Vela. She helped me escape. Risked her life. She's not like the others. She's still the enemy," the captain said. "She's a person," Jake replied. "And if we don't help her, she'll die." Back on the Korthari warship, Vela sat alone in a locked chamber. The lights were dim. Her uniform was gone, replaced with a plain robe. Her rank had been stripped. She had been caught, but not defeated. She stared at the small crack in the wall where air from the vent still hummed, the same vent she had shown Jake. That memory gave her strength. They asked her questions, accused her, called her a traitor. She said nothing, because she believed something now, something that went beyond orders or planets or sides. She believed in the smile that changed everything. On the Earth Alliance ship, Jake sat across from a table of Ficers. They didn't trust him at first. They didn't believe a Korthari would ever help a human. But Jake told them everything, from the moment he was captured, to the clues she left him, to the escape. Every choice, every word, every look. She didn't have to help me, Jake said. But she did, and that means something. One officer leaned forward. "Why would we risk a rescue mission for one alien?" Jake met his eyes. "Because that's what humans do. We don't leave good people behind, even if they weren't born on our side of space." The room was quiet again. Then slowly the captain spoke. "Prepare a scout ship. Quiet, no weapons hot. We go in dark." Jake stood. "I'm going with you." The Earth Alliance scout ship moved through deep space like a shadow. Engines were silent, shields low, and weapons turned off. This was not a mission of war. It was a mission of hope. Jake Wren stood beside the pilot, wearing a light suit and a calm face. His heart, however, was racing. The Korthari warship was ahead, orbiting a small moon just like before. It hadn't moved. "She's still there," Jake whispered. The captain looked at him. "If we're spotted, they'll shoot. You know that." Jake nodded. "Then we won't get spotted." The crew moved fast but quiet. They had only one goal: get in, get Vela, and get out. Jake had uploaded the old ventilation map she had shown him. It gave them a way through the lower deck, a blind spot in the Korthari sensors. The mission began. Jake and 2 soldiers floated out of the ship in stealth suits and glided toward the Korthari vessel using small boosters. They reached a service hatch without triggering any alarms. Jake led the way. Inside, the halls were quiet. Different now. More guards. More cameras. The crew was on high alert since his escape, but the vent tunnels were still unguarded. They crawled through the shafts, just like before, until they reached the holding sector. Jake peered through the vent grill and saw her, Commander Vela. She sat on a small bench, her hands folded, head slightly down. She looked thinner, weaker, but her eyes were still strong. Jake's voice was low. "She's here." One of the soldiers nodded. "We'll cover the hall. Get her out, fast." Jake opened the vent and dropped into the room. Vela looked up and, for a second, her eyes widened. She stood. "Jake?" He smiled. "Told you I'd come back." Her voice was low with disbelief. "How?" "I found help," Jake said. "People who believe in doing the right thing." She took a shaky step forward. "You shouldn't be here. They won't stop us," Jake said. "Not this time." He reached out his hand. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she took it. The three of them moved quickly through the vents, with Vela in the middle. Alarms hadn't sounded yet. That was a good sign. But then, footsteps. Louder. Closer. Guards in. The hallway. Their voices echoed in the alien tongue. They knew something was wrong. The Earth soldiers drew stun rods and prepared for a fight. Jake turned to Vela. This way. Go. They ran through the emergency passage toward the outer hatch. Just like before, blasters hummed behind them. Shots fired, missing by inches. Vela ducked and rolled faster than Jake expected. Even weak, she still moved like a trained warrior. They reached the escape lock. The outer door opened, revealing the stars and their waiting ship not far away. The soldiers jumped first, boosting toward safety. Jake grabbed Vela's hand. Now, but she hesitated. I can't go, she said. If I leave, I'll be hunted forever. Jake looked at her. You'll be free. She shook her head. I was a commander, a leader. They'll say I ran. Jake stepped closer. You didn't run. You changed. That's not weakness. That's courage. Her eyes searched his face. Then, slowly, she nodded. They leapt. The stars rushed around them. The rescue ship pulled them in. Just before the Korthari sensors caught up, alarms blared across the warship, but it was too late. They were gone. Hours later, safe aboard the Earth scout ship, Vela sat in a quiet room. She looked out the window at space. Her home was gone. Her rank, lost. Her future, uncertain, but her heart was light. Jake walked in and sat beside her. I brought something, he said, handing her a small cup. She looked at it. What is it? Coffee, he said. Earth drink. Bit strong. She took a sip and made a face. Jake laughed. Told you. Vela looked at him. What happens now? We'll talk to the Alliance, tell them everything. Some may listen, some may not, but we start there. And me? She asked. Jake looked at her. You start over, as yourself. No title, no orders, just you. She nodded slowly. It's strange, she said, to not be what I was. It means you can become something new, Jake said, something better. She smiled, just a little. Then for the first time, she said the word. Thank you. Jake smiled back. That's what we do. He looked out the window. The stars stretched far ahead. So much space, so many chances, and maybe, just maybe, one human and one alien had already begun to change it all, together.